This is bananas. The case of Miss Tamara Washington. We are rolling, by the way.
Okay, so you know about Tamara Washington. You've heard her story before. I don't know if everyone listening has. So I'm gonna just give it to you real quick like this.
Hit it.
Imagine yourself. You're a child, all right, in school, and the end of the day has come. You're getting up. You're walking out of class, and the teacher stops you and says, "Before you go, J-ZILLA, I need you to take this note home with you. Make sure you have it signed by both
Mm.
parents when you come back from your suspension." Suspension? What are you talking about? What are you? Sorry, J-ZILLA. We don't take questions in this line. We're an entirely different organization from the lunch ladies. You'll have to go and see them. Now, J-ZILLA, you are devastated. You know your parents, maybe they're not there a lot. They see this note, they're gonna clown. They're gonna clown. They're not about to they're not waiting for follow up or talk to the teacher. So you've got to go home and explain this note to them. Your teacher doesn't seem like she's rational or competent or needs to be teaching nobody. Nevertheless, you get on the bus and you think, shoot, what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do? You're distressed. So you tell your friends around you, hey, Kyle, can you stop at my house? You were in class today. You were there for this non-incident.
Right.
You can help cover me. You can help get me out of trouble. It'll save me so much pain. Sorry, I've got piano lessons at 3:15. Or okay. Well, Samantha, Timothy, you guys were there. You can vouch for me. Um, my I don't want to, and I've got video games to play, and you're just thinking, what the hell? You see, you are an innocent person accused of a crime, and what the kids around you on the bus don't get, and what you don't get necessarily, is that your house is coming up. We're on the bus. We are on your street, J-ZILLA. We can see your parents. They going in the house with carrying groceries in. Your time is counting down, and no one around you has the same urgency as you do. Because after you get off the bus, they keep on riding. That their stop is on in the future. So you get off the bus and you go to your parents and you see their faces turn to frowns. Get in the room. I'll deal with you in a minute. And you go in there and they discipline you however that looks, and all the neighbors are watching. They're shouting at you. It ain't even none of their business, but they're just happy to see that you're in trouble. And all the while you're sticking to your story. It wasn't you. You don't know what the teacher's talking about. And let's say this is a violent attack. The teacher, the thing that the teacher wrote you up for was initiating a violent attack on another student. Okay. You can never live this down. And you cannot even come outside. You're suspended, and now you got to go back to school in front of the same teacher that put you in this whole mess, and you've got to play by her rules. She doesn't acknowledge it. She's not mad. You're not even sure if she understands what happened or if she remembers what happened. Like it just moves on over with the system, and you still are looked at out of the side of your parents' eye. They don't trust you. You can't come outside. You hear the kids going up and down the street all day when they're going to and from school. Hey, that's where that J-ZILLA kid lives. I heard he can't come outside forever. They're laughing at you, judging you, and you hear this. But then, the day you've been waiting for, maybe it's the radio or the TV, but you hear it in the background. Such and such teacher has been suspended from yada yada school district after it's been found out that she has been launching these vicious attacks on students. In fact, hidden cameras show that she would wait in the closet or behind the door as the children were filing out. And then the last one walking out of the room, she would punch him in the back of the head. And nobody was watching. And whatever kid was closest That's who she would write up and give this, demerit to. Did it for 15 kids before you, and you hear this on the news, and you're thinking, yes, 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 finally, finally, I'm exonerated. You run in there, and your mom and your dad are in front of the TV watching the same thing you listening to, right?
Right.
And they say this. Well, that doesn't prove anything. Just because she did it in their cases doesn't mean she did it in yours. Imagine if you are in this situation now. You can't go outside. Nobody believes you. They don't seem reasonable. You don't even go to look out the window no more, J-ZILLA.
Right.
It's because all along the way, you've been failed at every single level by everybody who you need to come to your defense. And even now, you can't say to them, because you need them, the truth, which is that if we're not having the same type of response that you had when you saw this evidence today, we are antisocial. That is an antisocial reaction not to, get it. So I hope that this evidence that you see today is a spot to inspire us to go back and be those kids on the bus and do the right thing, and now offer up the support on behalf of an innocent person, like we should have been there as a society to do so from the jump.
I usually like to start with the joke, Kyle. But
Hey,
I think the truth is enough. So let's go ahead and start the show.
All right.
Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Academia Podcast. I'm your host, J-ZILLA, as per usual. Today with me, I have back to give us an update on this Tamara Washington case up there in Wayne County, Michigan. Kyle, help us out. What did you bring us today?
So I've told you the story before, but I've never ever given you the evidence, like shown it to you. Today, we're going to all be advocates. We're going to all be detectives, and we're going to look at the same thing, the evidence that we're asking the governor of Michigan to look at. Because once you look at it, it's plain as day. You don't have to have a justice degree. You just have to stick with us to, towards the end of the show, and you will see the challenges that we're up against, and just how possible it is that with your support, we can actually make some miracles happen in the justice system.
Set this up. So what Kyle is talking about is he has sent me the Zoom meeting and set this up for me. It's for Miss Tamara Washington. What year is this? What is she being accused of? Who are the players? And then we'll go into the court's answer as to where the evidence, because basically the counselor, Miss Dunn, is representing Miss Washington and saying that, hey man, the prosecution has not sent over the evidence they have. So set that up.
Exactly. So this is a post-appellate action. This is Tamara Washington basically saying, hey, my case hasn't been done right, obviously, because I'm innocent and the truth hadn't set me free. So to get a fair shot at proving my innocence, I need to look at the evidence. I need to have access to the evidence that is used against me. That's usually, it's called discovery in the pre-trial phase. Discovery motion. And the judge seems to be pretty open to it. Problem is that the state, whose job it is to produce that, cannot find it. And of course they can't find it. There's a lot of good reason to cover it up and to not have it out. But generally, what we're going to look at today is going to demonstrate all of that. and seeing the response of seeing the depth of exhaustion of search from this prosecutor, from the state's representative. What you should take away from this video is that there's nowhere else to look. It don't exist. After everywhere that you hear today that they've looked, it doesn't exist. So you'll see the reason for it, which is what I would call a supportive detail of Tamara Washington's claim of innocence.
Right. So I have the video here. It's 9 minutes long, but we're gonna break it down into about 4 30-second to 30 to 90-second clips. All right.
Okay.
And so this is basically the defense asking for the prosecution, right? So for some of our younger audiences who don't understand what that means, the defense is the person is accused of a crime and you're trying to defend yourself, hence defense. All right. The other side is usually represented by the state and they're trying to prosecute you for the crime you're accused of, hence the prosecution. So when you hear us say the defense of Tamara Washington, that's Miss Dunn, who would be third from the top row left. The right beneath the judge is in the top left corner, and then right below the judge is the head of the prosecution, Mr. Hebel or Hebel, if I got that
And
right.
I believe what you've got has Hebel starting off first. So this is the defense. The whole case of this whole clip overall is the defense asking for that evidence, and Mr.
Gotcha.
Hebel is coming in with the state's response.
So I do want people to hear this well, so I'm going to mute you and myself here in a bit. And so this is the defense attorney in the top row there, third from the left. She is asking for the evidence for her client, Ms. Tamara Washington. And this was the prosecution's response. So let me mute myself here.
All right, Mr. Hebel. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we're not holding out on defense counsel. Let me explain what's going on. Yeah, there is a legal side to this, and I can argue that there's no basis for the motion because there's no right to post-conviction discovery, or for that matter, post-appellate discovery. But I didn't want to get to this point because I just wanted to give everything we got to sister counsel. The problem is we don't have it. We have no file in this case.
So there you have it, Mr. Robinson. The words were, we don't have any of those files. We don't have any evidence for this case.
This is a damning statement because this case is not from 1976. It's not from 1943. Abe Lincoln wasn't involved. This case is from 2010, meaning they got it on cassette, CD, USB. It's everywhere. Like they don't lose files.
Right.
It's almost impossible to get them to access files or to get rid of files, but they definitely don't lose them. And what you just heard him go into was a bit of an exhaustive look into a bunch of places where her file should have been. It's not like it's a physical thing or like a set of keys where you lose it once and you can only find it in one place. This thing should have been in all of those places he just mentioned. And as we'll see, he's just getting started.
So now we're going to go into, as I mute you again, we're going to go into the list of places where the files should be, but are not. Let's take a listen.
The APA who handled the case retired. I checked the digital files in our office, and that came up empty. The digital files is where we maintain all of our archives. So I went to the ACT program, which is our database of files. The closing protocol was not in it, so there was no information there as to where I could find it. I checked in the old file room. It's not there. I inquired in long-term storage whether this got shoved away with the really old cases. It's not there.
Ooh, okay, so he's going to continue, Mr. Robinson. But one of the things I thought was cool is like there was a person who was working there who was supposed to be handling these things who had been fired and or retired. Right? That's how long ago this was. So you're talking it's 2024, Kyle. It's 2024.
Yes, and she's been in there. We're approaching her 14th year. And this is unfortunately the most support, attention, and attraction that she's been able to gather in at one time. It is hard to fight your case from inside. The system is not incentivized to let people out, so it's literally an uphill battle to just get the amount of attention that she's gotten this far. 14 years.
14 years. So just to put that in perspective,
you know, the average person who gets exonerated, at least a black person who gets exonerated, I think they're at like 16 years on average. You can double check me on that. But everybody, all the exonerees, they wait like over a decade before they get exonerated. That means that's 10 years of your life fighting a case from prison. You know, without your appeals have been squashed. And you're lucky, but that's been the case for a lot of my friends in Michigan who've been exonerated. Take Larry Darnell Smith, who's another advocate of Tamara Washington. 26 years. You know, I hope it doesn't become 26 years for Tamara Washington. I pray it doesn't. Yeah, that's why we're needed. That's why we got to get to work.
So this is interesting. So according to the National Registry, I need my glasses. According to the National Registry of Exonerations, the average time spent in prison for exonerees is just over 9 years. However, some prisoners have spent much longer in prison for crimes they did not commit. For example, Kevin Strickland has spent 42 years, 6 months, and 29 days in prison. Herbert Myers spent 42 years, 6 months, and 26 days in prison. And then Clifford Williams Jr. has spent 42 years, 6 months, and 26 days in prison. So in a situation where there's no evidence, and matter of fact, you've been exonerated technically, but paperwork and all this red tape, some people spend all of this time just waiting for the evidence to kick in for them to believe it.
When you think it would be that day? Like if we caught the guy who did do it, you know.
Oh, those are the worst.
It would be that day. We got to let you out, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
With our apology. So, okay. Yeah. One of the things, so in this thing, the defense has made a motion on behalf of Miss Tamara Washington saying that, hey, they haven't given us our evidence yet, our discovery, what it's called. We need that to be in our hands ASAP so we can get to work proving that our client is innocent, right? Yes. But we still have things like this that happens where let's check back in to see if they have found these files as I meet you again, Cal. We're going to check back to see if they've, where the state has, stashed the evidence. So let's take a listen.
I checked with the APA's last unit before he retired. They don't have it. I checked with the unit that he was with before that. I checked with the chief of general trials. Searched my own office to see if somebody stuck it there. Inquired as to whether or not the people in the FOIA office had obtained it and it was in their office. No, I can't find it. It's not anywhere.
So, not looking too good, right? And by the way, real quick, we do have down below just our scroll. We're just gonna keep this on for the remainder of the episode, man. Call Governor Whitner. This is the governor of Michigan, who is up there in Wayne County, which is Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. It's within Wayne County, right?
Yes, I'm sure the governor's probably not in Wayne County. She's probably out
No,
somewhere.
no. She's in Michigan, but she's at the
Right,
governor.
yeah, this case is Wayne County for sure.
Yeah, but the Wayne County, it's just funny that, of course, that's where Detroit is, and they're saying, hey, we understand that you didn't do this. And while I put this, have the producer put the picture back up for us, please. Thank you. In the top, oh man, is it the top right corner? Do I have that right, Kyle?
No, from the top left corner, you see Christine.
Sorry, I'm looking for the person who actually supposedly did the crime and his case was dismissed.
Oh, he's not here. He's not here. This is years after he's dismissed. He's dismissed, as that paper will show, in 2010, before they go ahead trying her.
So just to be sure that I have this information right, and please below, feel free to call, leave a message, and ask the representatives of the governor's office, why has Tamira Washington not been released?
And J-ZILLA, what you just said, I don't want to walk away from it too quick, because that's a critical point. That is the most important piece of evidence for anybody to hear if they're just now coming into contact with this case. Here's how you know there is some buffoonery going on. She's been accused of an armed robbery, being the driver in an armed robbery. Now, the person who's not the driver in that type of crime, the person who's actually gets out and goes and involves himself in the crime, that's called the principal. That's like the leader of the crime, the quarterback of the crime. Well, they let the principal go. They dismissed the principal because it was proven that he was in jail at the date of offense. You talk about a hell of an alibi. I ain't never heard an alibi that good. What can you say? And when you're the state and you got him locked up, you got to what you gonna say? Well, we was wrong. He wasn't in jail. No, like, it's solid. And what this letter is gonna lay out in this PDF that we look at is that what we're asking the governor is, hold on, if the case was so thrown off by the evidence of the unexpected evidence of the principal of the case, the co-defendant, Henry Harrison, being in jail at the time, that we had to let him go. Y'all knew that you had to let him go and say this crime didn't happen because he was in jail, but you didn't do that for Tamira. Why not? That's the fundamental reason that you have. That's how you have to approach this case. And what does it say when our conviction integrity unit, who's been put here to handle cases like this, who is routinely in the top 5 in the nation for a number of people released, because there's so many people falsely arrested and convicted in Michigan that's not a thing you want to be in the top 5 with, right? That's something you want to be at the bottom of the list or not on the list. And it's so many there that they actually had to establish a unit. The problem is that this unit, as many exonerees have told me, filters out the people who they want to let out routinely, and it's around election time. And they do that, but they don't do it all the time, and here's why. There is something called a wrongful compensation fund that is set up to pay the exonerees of Michigan $50,000 a year for every year that they were incarcerated wrongly. There's like 1.2 million in it right now, and then it's like 9 million backed up. That's how much they under budgeted how many they were going to need. They're not the only state doing this. Oregon's having the same issue. They're not paying people who are exonerated. This here nor there. We just want her out, but it speaks to the reason of why they are not, diligent about releasing people who they should be releasing.
Hold on. Are you saying that this is like this is tied to, it will cost the state money we were to let her out?
Yes, it would actually. Yes, it works against them to investigate her claim, or to find the truth in her claim. It costs them money, and it costs them money.
So okay, I'm trying to be mindful of
And
the
they're
time
about
here.
keeping their job. Actually,
Okay.
I have to share with you another video of one of the exonerees, Lucino Hamilton, speaking about this exact same thing and talking to it in depth. This is someone who did 27 years, and his case is widely known. But yeah, he did 27 years before being exonerated, and he actually details the way that these wrongful convictions happen. They used a confidential informant who basically lived in the jail, and the police officers paid him and fed him stories and kept him, safe in that jail. And he would say that he would testify in these people cases, saying that, well, he got a confession from them. And in fact, Mona Childs is the officer who has her name has been in the news because of this lawsuit that the prisoners have brought in Michigan. And she's actually on YouTube. They interview her, and she openly confesses to knowing that some of these men were not being tried fairly, and that these confessions were being obtained either
Mona
coercive.
Childs?
Monica Childs, yeah, Detroit Police Department. And I can flip you some sources on this as well if you want. Fox covered it.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Hang on, because man, this is so much.
it should
We
be
need 9 hours to disseminate this. Maybe that'll be our next update. Right now, we're gonna stay focused on Miss Tamara Washington here.
okay.
Man, this is a lot. You just gonna have to keep coming back and keep updating us. But just to give do I have this breakdown correct? There is an armed robbery. They, first of all, he and the
Alleged.
he allegedly, and she, okay, he and her allegedly were both co-conspirators of this crime, right? And she was alleged to be the getaway driver. They both get blamed for this crime based off of eyewitness testimony, which is found. I think we read earlier, eyewitness misidentification is the leading cause of wrongful convictions, accounting for around 70% of known, that's key right there, known cases. So out of every time someone says, I saw them, for the people who may not understand that, every time there was a case where the person says, I saw them do something, 7 out of 10 people are known to have made a mistake in that. That means the other 3 out of 10 could be, and it just wasn't proven, or stuff like this, where they couldn't find the evidence all of a sudden. But the principal, which is we'll say the star of the crime, alleged crime, gets dismissed because they actually realize, I mean, his alibi is pretty good, which is, I couldn't have done that. I've been here with y'all the whole time. Y'all being the penal system up there. He was in jail, in prison already. That was his alibi, which they obviously proved and dismissed him, but still used those same eyewitness accounts to hold the alleged getaway driver, Miss Tamara Washington. Okay, let's see if maybe the lawyer found some of these things. Hang tight with me here. Let's take a listen.
So I went the other direction. I contacted the police, and I tried to obtain the warrant jacket. I went through the OIC, who's no longer handling cases and files. So he directed me to another another detective who he thought would be able to find it. He couldn't find it. I checked with the old warrants jacket room, but that no longer obtains all the warrant jackets. Rather, they only get a couple of precincts. They looked for me at my insistence. They didn't have it. They redirected me to another file room that would have old Eastern District files. But that file room said just point blank, this case is too old for us to have. I insisted that they check. They didn't find anything. So this isn't a case where there's any cloak and dagger going on. I would give her anything that I've got, but I don't have anything.
So let me ask you real quick. Him saying that it's not cloak and dagger, I just don't have anything. Is there then, does that initiate some sort of process where I guess he has to prove that he doesn't have anything?
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
You would think so. But
Frapping.
with a decent lawyer or any court official who, was not stoned out of their mind that day, they would naturally have to, follow up with, well, on what grounds do you keep this person here? I immediately want a stay of sentence or a commutation of sentence based on this, or, drop the charges. You wouldn't hear drop the charges because this is post-appellate. So it should be a immediate commutation of that sentence or clemency of some form. Unfortunately, though, that every little step like that requires someone in court to raise their hand and say, hey, I need a motion, or I motion for this. It requires somebody to do something very simple, which is raise their hand and speak some common sense.
Well, okay. So Miss Tamara Washington has her lawyer there, right?
Right.
This lady in the top row, third from the left.
Yes.
Right. So after he finished saying, yeah, we've looked at all these places and nobody has the evidence. And by the way, there's a person who was released because eyewitness got it wrong, because the guy that they said who allegedly did the crime is actually already serving time for something else during the offense. And so the getaway driver is still arrested and held for allegedly being a getaway driver for a guy who was in jail.
See that case you just made right there? That's what her lawyer should have said. That's what.
Wait, hold on now. Wait, let's give her a chance. Let's hear what she has to say.
Understanding that Ms. Dunn, any thoughts?
Yes, I understand Mr. Peebles and everything he possibly can to find this. I'm really here to establish that there is nothing to find, and then I can assure my client we did do what we could to find that discovery to show that it's just not findable. Well, it's not that old a case. I handle appeals from the 80s, Your Honor, and they still can find discovery, so I'm not really sure what's going on. But it sounds like there's been some mismanagement at best at the prosecutor's office and not being able to find a file. But that said, I'm really here just to assure my client that we tried and can look elsewhere. But if he can't find it, I'm not going to be able to find it either. I was hoping that maybe Mr. People would say that there was, with an order, he could go look at some special place. But if there's no such thing, then we're going to be stuck.
Okay, so she tried. Oh, well, listen. Some of the language she used words like, could. She said tried twice, and she even had a little giggle because she herself realizes how ridiculous this is, and she actually goes straight at the people who are supposed to be keeping up with this very vital evidence against her client by saying, I've had paperwork from the 80s, so I don't understand why that. And at best, it sounds like there was some mismanagement. And she trusts, that's the biggest one right there. She trusts that the prosecution against her client did everything he in his office. So she's not going to pursue it. And the motion is therefore withdrawn. Make it make sense.
She's either aggressively passive, or she might have sensed that, well, if there is this, type of collusion going on behind the scenes, maybe I don't want to, display or alert that I sense that. But then again, like you said, she directly says that she sensed that mismanagement at best. So obviously she knows what's up, but she states what she needs to state for them to breeze right over this. Do you think if Tamara Washington could have unmuted right then and said something, she would have? Of course she would have.
Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't. And
Your Honor, something like Your Honor, they haven't found evidence. May I go home now?
Yeah, Your Honor, fuck what they talking about. Can I go home?
Language, sir.
Sorry. But yes, yeah, it's standing up to the court and making a reasonable argument that anybody, you and I, would naturally come up with to say, and that is what happens in all of these cases of innocence that I'm related to.
Wow. Just wow, man. So here is the letter. I'm going to get us out of this shot. So hopefully the audience can see it a little bit better, but we can still hear you. Okay. Give us a quick 30 seconds. Like just go through the first paragraph, like the first couple of paragraphs there. And then, yeah, just give me in a nutshell what this letter is about, who is to, who is from.
Okay. So I'm gonna lay out to you just, you can scroll down. If I'm giving you a 30-second version, then you'll go to the Henry Harrison page.
The details of Henry Harrison's alibi?
It's not written in words. It's the one that looks like a docket. It's page 3, or maybe page 3.
Yeah, I saw it earlier.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so what is made, the case that is made in the argument above in the rest of the copy or text on this outline you're looking at is basically my friend Cole, who drafted this for me, writing to the governor saying, hey, I figured out what happened. Not coming out directly and saying, I know what y'all did, but saying, hey, I figured out what happened. This is it. Now, just so that you'll understand, Judge, the most important issues of this case that I'm about to present to you circle around these facts. And this Henry Harrison page is these facts. What happens on this page is that you'll see a dismissal, and that's on page. You actually stop where you're at.
Right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what you see here in the 526 and the 7 and 16 and the 802, all along the way, they're moving this case along with knowledge of this and with Tamara, fighting it. But this guy is obviously not being updated or even informed. The moment that he gets out, he comes to court with his lawyer, and that is on 9/1.
September 2nd, it's dismissed.
Huh?
Well, the jury trial is September 1st.
Yeah. So they dismissed him right before the jury trial. Or, well, you can read it.
Right. So the pre-trial or the final conference happens July 16th. The pre-trial happens August 2nd. The jury trial happens at September 1st. September 2nd, the trial was in process. And then September 2nd, same day, it was dismissed because it was so ridiculous.
Right. And when they dismissed it, 20 minutes later, they refiled it. They reopened it under different numbers so that this right here wouldn't be in the case, wouldn't be in the records when you look it up today. This was dug up. So
who is Cole in this situation?
Cole is my roommate in Portland.
Got you. And so he's just being a gracious American citizen and saying, hey, he's saying he can't find any paperwork or any evidence. Like, here's some stuff maybe the governor needs to see, which let me remind you guys right there, scrolling at the bottom, 517-335-7858. Again, that is 517-335-7858. I'm going to call once a day. That's my commitment at the very least.
I'm going to call myself. I'm getting a number. But yeah, this is exactly what happened. You've got it laid out. After they dismissed his case, they went through with hers, and the jury never got to hear anything about his involvement or lack of involvement, his alibi. All of that was kept from the jury by the stroke of a motion. When a lawyer can stand up and say, hey, I have this to say, they don't. They'll say something to you like this. well, you know, the DA hasn't really established their theory yet, so we're not even going to address it. We're not even going to bring your defense and your alibi up because they didn't establish their proof, and the burden of proof is on them, and yada 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 yada, and then you're going to jail forever. So
Crazy. So okay, just to be sure, I'm trying to track this with you.
Okay.
So 2010, alleged robber dismissed because he was in jail during the time. So even though we can see the social algebra in that and saying, well, if the eyewitnesses got that wrong, maybe they got her wrong as well. And they're saying, okay, we'll see. But then there's no evidence presented because apparently it doesn't exist. But the most disturbing thing for me is the defense attorney saying, I trust the prosecution has tried really, really hard. So I don't see a need to try, for one. For two, I'm going to withdraw my motion for evidence from my client.
Yeah. Taking away the record of Tamara pushing, for this thing. I mean, just bending over backwards to not
properly represent her.
Yeah, to not apply any accountability on the state, who actually has the unlimited resources and should have the unlimited responsibility to be accountable. It's the same in every single relationship. You're talking about an incestuous bunch. It's the attorneys and judges in the courtroom. They work together. I mean, everybody's heard Plies 100 years. That's might be the one song that he got right, but that is how it works realistically. I took us back to like 08 right there, didn't I?
Right.
That is how it works realistically. They swap you out, and you'll see it case after case. That is why so many innocent people end up behind bars. But Michigan is, the place where you would naturally expect to find the most exonerees continuing to come out. If this compensation budget were responsibly funded. But right now there's an incentive not to find Samara's case to be meritorious.
The compensation budget you're talking about basically dictates that for every person who is found to be wrongfully exonerated gets $50,000 for every year they were wrongfully in prison.
Correct.
And so there may be some incentive to just kind of keep people like Tamara Washington, right? Like the ideal that they dismissed his case and then reopened the case just so there wasn't any link between all the evidence found to be used for his case. Tamara Washington. Now she has been in prison since then, waiting for this information, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about 50,000 times 14. My count. So right now, it's $700,000 they owe her.
Yeah.
Besides her freedom.
Right. And they're 9 million in the hole right now. That's how backed up they are. Like
Google.
Yeah. They owe 9 million out, and they've got like 1.2 million in to pay it with. So they're super in the hole. They're backed up as far as payment. They can't pay. They hadn't paid the people they've already exonerated going back years.
So the people they've already exonerated and they're released from prison, they still have not received their compensation.
Correct.
So Wayne County Commissioners today, so this is 2003, they adopted a balance of $2.02 billion operating budget for the 2023-24 fiscal year. With money set aside for county township initiative projects involved. Okay, so this is the full budget for roads, therapeutic parks, nonprofit and small businesses. So what you're talking about is they're about $9 million that they need to pay the people that they've already exonerated. They need to also, people like Tamara Washington, hear her case with the appropriate representation, with the appropriate evidence, so she may be released and then compensated properly as well.
Correct.
Okay.
They've got a specific budget just for this. It's titled, and there's some articles about it. It's called the wrongful incarceration and compensation budget. And yeah,
that's crazy. So okay, before I let you go here, just give everybody 30 seconds or less breakdown in this entire thing, step by step, from the 2010 to now, what needs to happen and what they can do to help Miss Washington. Just at least get some news coverage or some, some sort of, I don't even know what to say, like expose.
We need anybody who's involved or connected to any form of journalism to do a story about this, to interview me about it or you about it, or to get with me, and I can give you access to Tamara's actual audio where she's telling about this. So anybody related to journalism, I need you to get on this story. This is critical, and it's a breaking story, and it has so many implications on other people's freedom. Tamara's not the only one in Detroit, as you will come to find out. The most important thing you can do in this moment, in the next 10 seconds, is go on to Facebook, join or follow the Miscarrying Justice League page. Miscarrying Justice League is a page co-created with Tamara Washington that allows all the individuals incarcerated at Women's Huron Valley the ability to blog, to write, to share their stories, to share their cases, their updates, to promote legislation, to contact and connect with us on the outside. This is us as a community saying, yes, we are here for you. We hear you, to our population who are the most vulnerable of all the incarcerated populations. It's time for us to be there. This is the way to do it. Miscarrying Justice League. Follow the page, join the group, and that's the way to stay connected. And it's a great way to support her.
That's it. And I didn't realize Miss Tamara Washington was one of the co-founders.
Yeah. It was me and her. Yeah.
Man, thank you so much, Kyle Robinson of Amplified Advocacy.
Yeah.
So much.
Definitely. I'll shoot you the new website. The new website is up now. You're going to see like one change to it maybe throughout the week, where Incarcerated Innocence is going to get a logo. It's going to be one of the initiatives that we're doing. And, it covers it's an umbrella for a lot of different types of advocacy related to incarceration.
Let me know, and he'll be back, of course.
Toastmasters or no Toastmasters? I know.
Yeah. Well, it's up to you.
The ride hadn't showed up either, so I'm down to push it.
I love it. So let me stop the screen and share that. So Kyle has been working on, so there it is, Amplified Silence, right?
Yes.
.org, amplifiedscience.org. And then Toastmasters, describe that a little bit while I pull it up for you.
Toastmasters is the project that changed my life. And it's the project that is the most important, the greatest resource ever on offer to returning citizens. And we're making it happen. So beyond
citizens. Sorry to interrupt. What do you mean by returning citizens, for those who don't know?
Returning citizens refers to people who have been incarcerated and now have transitioned back into society. And the stigma that goes with being an incarcerated, a returning citizen, is wild. You wouldn't believe it. It stays with you for life. It's just like having a big giant hat, orange hat, a cone hat, matter of fact, that lets people know that you're a second class citizen. You don't have to be shown the same rights or treatment as everyone else. It's okay to discriminate against you for a job or for housing or for anything else. It is something that can only go away when you have the ability to communicate yourself thoroughly and intentionally. And that's something that Toastmasters will help you do. Are you able to hear me well? Am I low?
Oh, yeah, no, you're fine. Okay. All right. So that's Kyle Robinson. Thank you so much for joining us. Hang out in the back room, green room, get you some snacks, cookies. I'll wrap up and be right back with you. Wow. So, armed robbery, eyewitnesses allegedly say that this fella, Mr. Harrison, and Miss Washington were involved. One did the robbing. Miss Washington allegedly did the getaway driving. found out actually that's not true at all because he's in jail. Heck of an alibi. She is still being held. Now, his case is dismissed in 2010, and then they reopen it. So when you go and look for his case, you don't see those details and all that evidence that the prosecution could not find anywhere. Doesn't exist. The lawyer who represents her kind of chuckles at the ridiculousness of it and the mismanagement and all of that, and says that I'm not going to look myself because I trust that the prosecution, did everything that he was supposed to do. I trust him. That's interesting. And so she withdraws the motion. And then 14 years later, she's still waiting to be released, Miss Tamara Washington. So again, that number is right there at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to just leave it up for a little bit longer. 517-335-7858. Call the number and ask the governor why. They say common sense ain't coming, and boy, oh boy, is that true with this episode. But keep coming back, and maybe we'll get some and help the governor of Michigan there get some as well. Peace. For you. For you. For you.
Vintage David Ruffin limelight to stay